Welcome back, happy crafting crew. We are continuing our sublimation series today. In the last sublimation video, which was actually 2 weeks ago, I think, we converted my Epson. Let me see if I can remember all the adjectives that go with this printer. It is the Epson Workforce C, hold on. It's the Epson Workforce C2100 Super Tank, and we converted it to sublimation by using StarCraft sublimation ink, and we did our very first test print. So if you're back, we're gonna do a little bit more about sublimation. This is gonna be kind of like a sublimation for beginners episode. So if you don't know anything about sublimation, but you're like, I kind of wanna know about that, I might wanna try that, this is the episode for you, because I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you a few tips and tricks about sublimation, and then we're gonna sublimate a project just so you can see the whole process from start to finish. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so first off, what even is sublimation? Sublimation is usually an offshoot of Cricut crafting for most people, but it's its whole separate thing. It's a whole thing in and of itself. Because whereas with regular vinyl crafting, you're cutting out vinyl with your Cricut and then adhering it on top of your blank, whether it's a tote bag, a tumbler, or a shirt, or whatever. Sublimation prints the design using special ink, sublimation ink in this case, and then you adhere it or bond it to your substrate or to your blank, whatever that may be. And it actually bonds with the fabric, creating a durable, long-lasting, vibrant design. It creates like professional quality products that you can make at home with a sublimation printer. So, needless to say, it's amazing. Okay, so before we dive into working with sublimation and making something with my sublimation printer, let me tell you something really cool about sublimation on the science side of like how it works. So if you ever took a chemistry class, you might remember that the process of sublimation is something that can go from a solid to a gas without ever going through the liquid phase. So sublimation printing actually works just like that. So the solid molecules of ink actually turn to a gas when heat and pressure are applied, which is how it bonds with the fibers of whatever you're putting your design on. And then when it cools, those molecules turn back to a solid, making it incredibly durable and incredibly long lasting. So that's why sublimation rocks. And really quickly, a couple quick tips about sublimation to get you started that you're gonna need to remember whenever you're sublimating. Number one is sublimation works best on polyester or polyester blend fabrics because that's what the ink can adhere best to. But you can also sublimate on some hard surfaces like mugs and notebooks if they are sublimation ready. And usually if they're sublimation ready, it means that they have been poly-coated with a special substance that allows that ink to adhere. To sublimation print, the only things you need are a sublimation printer or a converted Epson printer like what I have, sublimation ink in that printer, sublimation paper, or regular copy paper does work in a pinch, but I posted a video about this over on my TikTok. There is a little bit of a difference in your durability and in your end result. So I recommend sublimation paper, and then you're gonna need a heat press to adhere your design once you're done printing. An optional item is a Cricut, because if you want to print out a sublimated design that has a unique pattern and you want your Cricut to be able to cut that out, you might do a print then cut where you sublimate print your design and then have your Cricut cut out the outline of it to make an extra special and unique design on whatever you're sublimating. On that note, let's dive right in and do a really simple first sublimation project. Okay, so materials you're gonna need for this project are a polyester blend shirt. I'm using this Gildan dry blend shirt that is, I believe, 50-50 polyester and cotton, yes. So it's gonna sublimate really nicely. I've used these before and I think they're a really good price for what you're getting. So highly recommend. We're gonna use this guy. You can use any polyester blend shirt that you have. Just make sure it's light in color because dark colored shirts can kind of alter the color of your ink and it might not get the desired result that you want. Also, we're gonna be using StarCraft sublimation paper. And like I said before, in a pinch, you can use regular old copy paper, but I do think the results are just a little bit better if you use sublimation paper. And this is not that expensive, so I highly recommend it to get that extra oomph and vibrance out of your design. And other than that, all you need is a heat press and a converted sublimation printer or just a regular old sublimation printer with sublimation ink inside. Okay, so here's our design. I went ahead and made it in Canva. And with sublimation on my particular printer, you can only print 8.5 by 11. So I've made my design 11 by 8.5 because These 2 pages collectively will be the back of the shirt, and then this will be the front of the shirt, which is gonna go on the pocket area. So I've sized everything out exactly how I want it in Canva, using that 8.5 by 11 kind of as my guide, knowing that it's gonna take multiple sheets of paper to achieve the size that I actually want. And now I'm just gonna click the share button. I'm gonna download it as a PDF for print, and then I'm gonna make the color space CMYK because that's what Sublimation printing utilizes as the color space, and then I'm gonna click download. Now I'm just gonna select print. I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my printing tray over here, and I'm gonna load up my Sublimation paper here in the back of the printer so it's ready to go. One thing I'm gonna do before I print is I'm gonna unselect double-sided because I want this to print just one side on each page, obviously. I've got my correct printer selected, and so now I'm just gonna press print. One thing you probably noticed as you were watching this print is that it prints really dull compared to what we saw on the screen, and that is okay because actually once this is heat pressed onto our t-shirt, it's gonna liven right up. It looks dull on paper, but once you activate it with the heat press, it looks much better. Now we're gonna turn on our heat press and we're gonna set it to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and 40 seconds of time. So we're gonna let that heat up and then we're ready to press. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay my t-shirt down on my heating pad and just make sure everything is straight and lined up correctly how I want it. And we're gonna press the first half of our design on the back, then we're gonna repress for the bottom, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do the front. While our heat press continues to heat up, I'm gonna cut a few pieces of this heat tape. It's made by Caesar. You don't have to use this when you're heat pressing your sublimated designs, but I like to use it on designs like this just to make sure nothing moves around while it's being pressed, because that could create some like blurriness in your design. So I'm just gonna cut 3 pieces of heat tape here, and we're gonna use those when we're pressing to make sure nothing wiggles around. Okay, our heat press is all heated up. So before we actually press our design, we're gonna preheat our shirt by running a full cycle of 40 seconds on the back. And I'm just gonna gently move it around as I do that so that the whole area that we're actually gonna be pressing is gonna get preheated and really allow our sublimation to stick to our shirt and adhere and bond and all that great stuff to the fibers of the fabric. Okay, we preheated our design. Now we're going to lay this first page down on the back exactly where we want it. I'm gonna make sure it's good and centered. I'm gonna lay it down, and then I'm gonna use that piece of heat tape I cut earlier to just stick it along the bottom here and make sure it doesn't wiggle around while we're pressing. And then we're going to firmly press for the full cycle of 40 seconds. And then we're gonna check it out. Okay, we've just finished pressing the first part of our design. So now we're just gonna pick at that heat tape a little bit to lift it. We're gonna slowly lift and check it out. That looks amazing. We're gonna let that cool down for just a second, and then we're gonna press the lower part of our design. Okay, now we're ready to lay down the second part of our design. So I'm just lining it up where I want it, making sure that that's in the right place. And then I'm gonna lay my heat tape down just like I did before. This time I'm gonna put it over here just so it stays. And then we're gonna press part 2. Okay, we just finished pressing the second part of our design, so now I'm gonna pick that heat tape up again, slowly lift, and there is the second part of our design. So let's quickly take a look at the back before we flip over to the front and do that front pocket. This is what we're looking like. So cute. I love all the stamps. I love how the colors are turning out. Let's flip this guy over and do the front. Before we press the front of this shirt, we are gonna use a Teflon heat-resistant sheet and just slide it in between the layers of this shirt so that whatever is on the back doesn't press through to the front, and that way we don't bleed onto our mat as well. So let's go ahead and get that situated just to avoid any mistakes, and then we will be ready to press the front. Okay, I just laid down the front, and now I'm gonna go ahead and press it, and then we will be done with this project, friends. Okay, let's go ahead and lift and see how she looks. So cute. You can see this shirt is kind of messed up. I don't know if you can see it over here, but overall, I'm obsessed. This shirt already had a defect on it. That's what this is right here. So just ignore that. But this is what the front looks like. This is what the back looks like. Let's try it on. Okay, she is so cute. Obviously, this was just like a scrap shirt that I had laying around. So like it has this little faded flower design on it from a past project gone wrong. So we're just gonna ignore that. But check out how cute the stamp looks. And then here's the back. It turned out pretty cute. Okay friends, that is our project for today, a very beginner sublimation project. And really that's the fun with sublimation, is every project is kind of a beginner project because it is so easy, so fun. It's a great way to get those more complicated, vibrant, rich color designs onto your projects where they look professional, they're durable, they're gonna last, but you can make it right at home. One thing I definitely want to make sure to mention about sublimation before we move on is typically, I don't know if you noticed, but my design from Canva and my design on the t-shirt were flipped. And that's because when you print it, you're gonna flip it over onto your shirt to press it. So if your design has lettering or if it needs to be in a specific orientation, make sure you always mirror your design, just like if you were doing heat transfer vinyl, so that it goes the correct way onto your shirt. Mine didn't matter because I was just doing like that stamp, landscape, scenery kind of design, and it looks good either way. But if you have to have it going a certain way, make sure to mirror. That's it for this week, friends. I hope you loved this project. Make sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of my crafty projects, because we could be sublimating, we could be doing beginner Cricut projects, we could be talking about how to work in Canva. We do a lot of stuff over here. So don't miss it. Subscribe so you can catch my new videos every week. And I can't wait to see you back here next time. Happy crafting, crew.